you need to start using Retroshare. Tell your friends and everyone you know, and tell your friends to tell their friends and everyone they know to start using Retroshare right now. Retroshare is a program that contains the full functionality that is needed for a replacement of social media. To replace social media in its entirety, including all of private messaging, which I'm including in the definition of the social media, all the communications platforms and the apps people use and all the social media sites and everything. A full comprehensive replacement for the entirety of social media is offered by Retroshare. Retroshare alone is a software program that offers the full functionality of replacing all of social media. So this means, including the private messaging I just mentioned, all the content publishing and viewing, all the file sharing, all kinds of other forms of communications and such things, and basically just anything there is to it. You can include all the functionality of social media, the content, mainly it's the content distribution and the content is what it's all about, right? And then the private messaging. Retroshare is a good replacement for the social media. Now, I will tell you some benefits to Retroshare specifically that make it a good alternative, and I say a good replacement for all of social media. So why Retroshare? Why specifically it? Why should you use Retroshare? Why not just any other program, or why not keep going with social media as it exists? Why switch to Retroshare? Why use Retroshare? Well, Retroshare, it is a peer-to-peer software. This means that it connects you directly to the people and the services that you want to connect to. So this means that in the case of private messaging, for example, when you are sending a message to someone, that message goes directly to that person. It doesn't go through a centralized server at all, whatsoever. So there is no need to worry about things like your privacy being violated or any other kind of nonsense like that when the message goes directly from you to your friend, whoever that happens to be, who you are sending messages to. So there's no privacy concern because it never goes to a centralized server. No big tech company or anyone else can get that data because it goes from you to the one who you sent that data to. That is peer-to-peer. Now, if you're then concerned with, well, what if you're sending to someone and you don't necessarily trust that person who you're sending that data to? Maybe they might see your IP address or something because you are communicating directly with them. Well, yes, that's true. But there is a means to overcome that issue. Retroshare offers you the option to communicate through the I2P network. Now, you might have heard of the Tor network, the Onion router. You might have heard of that. That's the thing people use for all the darknet sites and for anonymous communication. You might have heard of that. But there is another superior network in the form of I2P. I2P offers you the anonymity of basically, in this case, hiding your IP address. So now you can communicate with anyone else on Retroshare. Even if you don't want them to discover your IP address, you can still communicate with them directly through the I2P network. So you can communicate with anyone on the world. Anyone out there who is on Retroshare, you can communicate with directly. This means no centralized server. Now, it is not directly in the sense that it goes straight from your computer to their computer, because now it's going through the I2P network. So it's only directly in the sense that it's not going through a centralized server. So no centralized server is involved, but it does go through the I2P network. But no worry, the I2P network is really good. The I2P network serves to anonymize the traffic so that the person receiving messages from you and sending messages to you will not know your IP address. They will not discover it at all, because they are only communicating through the I2P network with you. So there is no concern with privacy even there. So if you use Retroshare with the I2P network, then no one will ever attack or violate your privacy in any way. Your privacy is safe. Retroshare offers you not only a means for private messaging, but the full functionality of social media in its entirety, basically. And in that, you have all the content out there in the world that people publish to Retroshare. You can view it. Now, more on the technology of Retroshare. Retroshare operates with the friend-to-friend network principle. I have made a separate speech explaining the friend-to-friend network. It is a specific type of a peer-to-peer network. There are many types of peer-to-peer networks. A friend-to-friend network is a form of a peer-to-peer network. And in case of you doing private messaging with a person you already know directly, then you can communicate with that one directly. But if there are people who you don't know directly yourself, who you only know through other people, or this could mean, for example, through some service, some social media service on the Retroshare. If you don't know them directly yourself, if you are not friends with them specifically, but you are communicating with them through some Retroshare service, then those communications, they go through the friend-to-friend network. So there are people in between, and the messages, the information goes through those people. I have made a separate speech explaining that in detail, so I'm not going to explain that any further now. You can go listen to that speech for a more comprehensive explanation of the friend-to-friend network. But no worries, your messages still remain private and all the communications are still encrypted. So no matter how many steps the messages take to get to the destination, it will remain encrypted and only the recipient will have the means to decrypt the message. And this way the communications are still private. So, a replacement for social media. People can publish content on the Retroshare software and make it available to either directly to their friends or through some social media type service on the Retroshare network to anyone else who goes to that service on the Retroshare network. So therefore, you as a user, if you want to use Retroshare as a replacement for social media, you need to connect to these types of services on the Retroshare network, and then you can access all the content that anyone has published to that Retroshare service. And that basically creates a sort of social media type world where people publish content and you can view the content. Excellent. So, what does it take then? What are the requirements for this to happen? Well, people need to use Retroshare. The technology is there. You can use it. Everyone can start using it. But for there to be content out there to see, there need to be people putting the content out there. There need to be people using Retroshare. So that is what I want you to do. And that is why you should go and tell everyone to use Retroshare. Use Retroshare. Tell your friends to use Retroshare. Tell your friends to tell their friends to use Retroshare. Everyone needs to use Retroshare. if people have had enough of the social media, all the privacy violations and all that stuff, people need to actually take action and solve the problem. The problem will never be solved with useless things like legislation making some spying on the people illegal or something like that. That's never going to solve the problem. The fundamental problem still persists. There are various problems with using centralized services as the social media that everyone uses. There is a big list of problems, or rather the problems on the list are big, depending on the point of view, whatever. Anyway, enough terminology. I have made a separate speech on the evils of centralized services and why you should use peer-to-peer software instead. And this speech is almost like a sequel to that speech. In this speech I specifically talk about Retroshare. Retroshare is the peer-to-peer software that replaces social media. Centralized services are evil, and there are big problems with that I described in the other speech I just mentioned. Centralized services, they have all the problems. You can go listen to that speech for the explanation of the problems. And the specific solution is Retroshare. See, if there is a problem, and a problem needs to have a solution, then merely talking about the problem is not enough. And this speech is me actually solving the problem, proposing a solution. Here it is. Retroshare is the solution. And also in combination with something like the I2P network, that would create the ultimate internet. But this is not going to happen unless there is a big push for it. People need to actually use Retroshare for there to be any people who use it, for it to be useful, for you to be able to view all the content and message with all the people. Unless the people are on the network, then there is no one there on the network to communicate with. So therefore, there needs to be a push for it. This is the network effect. The more people on the network, the more people there are to communicate with. Unfortunately, due to the network effect, many people are already on these established centralized social media services. And that is really bad. Those centralized services are bad, they are evil, they are wrong. You should get off and avoid all those centralized service things. And so, start using Retroshare right now. Install it on your computer. Even if you don't know anyone who uses it. Even if right now there's no one else who you know. None of your friends, no one. Even if you don't know anyone. Still, already install it on your computer. Because if someday someone asks you for your Retroshare ID, you better have it ready already. And then, this is the way to then go forward. To grow the user numbers of users. Anyway, install it. Have Retroshare on your computer. Tell your friends to use it. Even if it's just you and your friends. That's already good, because now you and your friends are communicating in a better way. Peer-to-peer way. Privacy-friendly way. Even you and your friends is already enough in that sense that now you and your friends have privacy. Your communications are safe. It's enough for you in that friend group. No, it's not enough for the world, just for you and your friends. Whoever you might be listening to this speech. Everyone and their friends need to have privacy and should use Retroshare. That is my recommendation. But if you specifically, all you do is communicate with your friends, then what you need is for your friends to be on the network. Now if you want then the social media well, that's gonna require everyone to use it. So, even with just small friend groups composing of a large number of user base, yes, that's the word I was looking for, user base, a user base composed of a large number of small friend groups, that's already a really good thing. Due to the friend-to-friend network of the Retroshare, these individual friend groups can also be interconnected. And therefore, this allows communication all over the world and to many people and across friend groups and all that stuff. And also there is this idea of 6 degrees of separation and such things. While that might not be necessarily always the case, or often it might be, but at least early on it might not be. Anyway, it's not gonna take much to communicate with everyone in the world by just connecting friend groups alone. Just having every one of your friends on the network and their friends on the network, then there's already a means to communicate with anyone out there. Now, do you want to communicate with just anyone randomly? Well, that's up to you to decide. But having everyone on the network is key. Having everyone on the Retroshare network is necessary to create a world in which Retroshare replaces social media as it currently exists. And that is something that needs to be done. Yeah. So, install Retroshare. Tell your friends to install Retroshare. Tell their friends to install Retroshare. And tell your friends to tell their friends to tell their friends to install Retroshare. And just keep going at this until everyone is using Retroshare. That is the correct way to do things. Right. That is the end of this speech. Until next time. Thanks for listening. Until next time. Bye.